Huakina mai rā te tatau o te pōtui a te hono, whiri a te hono ko te hono ki a wai ko te hono ki a rua. Rua i te pūkenga, rua i te horahora, rua i te wanawana, rua i te atamai, rua matua take o tāne. Tēnei au he pūkenga he wānanga i are nei te arero ki te tangata. Kia mau whiwhia, kia mau rawea, kia puta ki te whai au ki te ao marama, whano haramai te toki, haumi e hui e tā ki e. E ngā mana, e ngā waka, e ngā reo, e rauranga tira mā. O tira koutou ko ngā manuhiri. Koutou rā, ko tai mai, ki wainganui a tātou, ki runga nei o ngā whenua rangatira o Ngāti Whātua o rākei. Tēnei te mihi, tēnei te mihi, tēnei te mihi. Ki ngā ringa tuhi, ki ngā hine ngaro auaha, koutou ko ngā pūkōrero, koutou ko ngā kaipupuri i ngā pū rākau, tēnā rā koutou. Tēnā koutou i runga i te māharatanga o rātou ko wheturangitia, rātou ko haere ki tua o te ārai. Nō reira koutou e ngā mate, ko hoka i te pai, ko koroki i runga i ngā tōtara teitei o te wānui a tāne, haere ngā mate. Haere i mua i te tirohanga o ngā iwi, ko mahue i honei a koutou ki te ao tūroa, haere ki manawa kore, e ki ai, hikoa i a te whetū, hikoa i a te marama, kārere ko te ata i whāia, haere ngā mate. Hoi anō rā, koutou, kei ngā manuhiri, tēnei a Ngāti Whātua, te mihi nei, te tangi nei, te whakatau nei i a koutou, haere mai rā. I'm going to try and say that with just as much eloquence in the English language now. So, welcome. Greetings, good evening on behalf of Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei, the local tangata whenua here. Excuse my reading of my notes. It's an honour and a privilege to be here present with you at this prestigious occasion to acknowledge the many skilled, talented, creative writers, authors, illustrators, publishers, natural storytellers. We all gathered here to pay acknowledgement to all of those creative storytellers, those skilled creatives, and very soon who would be acknowledged and awarded for their efforts and contributions to the world of storytelling and information sharing. As Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei, the local custodians, a tangata whenua here, our form of storytelling is through te reo Māori me ona tikanga. That's the Māori language and the customs that go with it. It's very customary for us to welcome people into our rohe. We call this te kahu tōpuni or tuperiri, the dogskin chiefly cloak of our eponymous ancestor, tuperiri, of a rangatira that we can all trace our links back to. We've been doing this for beyond 200 years, welcoming guests, and upon the signing of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and also an allocation of 3,000 acres, which is essentially central Tāmaki and the upper Waitemata. But we're here, I'm here, and the multitudes behind me, here to be present with you and to taunaki, to give a backbone support, and to celebrate with you for this auspicious occasion. Anō reira, ka rere hoki ngā mihi, ko ngā mihi a ki ngā rangatira, kāre au e kite i tēnei wā, ko Paul Goldsmith tēnā koe, ko Rachel Boyack tēnā, ko Desley Simpson, tō tātou koromatu atuarua, tēnā hoki koe. Hoi anō rā, tēnei e mihi nei ki a koutou, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa. I would now like to invite up onto stage tēnā koe, Nicola, and we'll take the stage from there. Tēnā rā wātu koutou, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa.
Ngā mihi ana ki a koe, CJ. Thank you for that mihi. We feel very honoured that you've given this event your blessing. Ladies and gentlemen, special guests, tēnā koutou katoa ngā mihi nui. I'm Nicola Leggett, Chair of the New Zealand Book Awards Trust, te oho tiaki I te rauhiranga. On behalf of my fellow trustees, I'm so delighted to welcome you all to the 2025 Ockham New Zealand Book Awards, the 57th year of our National Book Awards, and welcome to those who are watching us from elsewhere on the live stream. A very warm welcome to our special guests, including the Minister for Arts, Culture and Heritage, the Honourable Paul Goldsmith, Opposition Spokesperson for the Arts, Rachel Boyack, Deputy Mayor of Auckland, Desley Simpson, Chief Executive of Creative New Zealand, Gretchen LaRoche, and the Chair of the Auckland Writers Festival Trust, Charlotte McLaughlin, her fellow trustees and festival patrons. A huge welcome and enormous thanks go to our funders and partners. Ockham Residential, to whom I will return in a minute. The Acorn Foundation, representing the legacy of the late and marvellous Jann Medlicott. Creative New Zealand, BookHub, an initiative of booksellers Aotearoa New Zealand. Mary and Peter Biggs, who unfortunately can't be with us tonight. Some of you may have heard that Air New Zealand had a few problems today and they were unable to make their flight. We miss them. And the Mātātuhi Foundation. Between them, all these funders have made it possible for us to award $113,000 in prizes tonight. And, thanks to them all, over the last 10 years, and including tonight, just over $1 million has been awarded in prize money to authors. I hope you would agree that that's really quite something. I would also like to acknowledge the financial support provided to the Awards Trust itself by the Ockham Collective, the charitable trust set up by Ockham's founders to foster creativity and connection in Tamaki Makaurau. And it's great to have a former Ockham Collective resident, Nigel Gavin, and his band Vox Nova playing the tunes for us tonight. Our thanks to you all are heartfelt. I'd also like to thank the Academy of New Zealand Literature, and special thanks to the Book Awards Trust Manager Belinda Cook, the Awards Administrator Chris Chan, and tonight's production crew. To return to Ockham, it's now 10 years since Mark Todd handed the Book Awards Trust a lifeline. Back then, after almost 50 years of running awards, we'd suddenly lost our funder, and the situation was, frankly, terrifying. 10 years on, we count ourselves blessed to work with such a generous and engaged funder. We could not be more lucky. Mark, Ben, Will, Peter, Anna, and the rest of the Ockham team, thank you, thank you. Another organisation threw us a lifeline then too. Then Artistic Director Anne O'Brien and the board of the Writers Festival offered us a home within the festival program. That's been hugely beneficial to the awards and to writers, and it's an alliance we truly treasure. And so, to tonight's category finalists, 16 fantastic authors who demonstrate so vividly how critical books are to the national conversation, the national imagination. Congratulations, everyone. It will be a great privilege to hear you read to us tonight. And we salute your publishers and the booksellers and librarians who put your books into readers' hands. Thank you also to our 13 heroic judges who last October started with 175 entries and have read thousands upon thousands of words and engaged in deep discussion with each other to select the 4 winners, plus 4 Best First Book winners announced tonight. A special welcome also to Aotearoa, to this year's international fiction judge, Georgina Godwin, who's in Auckland for the Writers' Festival. You will have noted the judges' names on the slides at the start of the ceremony, and please now would you join me in a round of applause to thank them. It is now my pleasure to welcome to the stage the Minister for Arts, Culture and Heritage, Paul Goldsmith. Minister, thank you for finding the time to be with us tonight. Welcome, and we look forward to your remarks.
Well, thank you, Nicola. Good evening, everybody. Ngāti whātua ki ora kei tēnei taku mihi atu kia koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. And look, great to be here. I've just flown up from Wellington, a rather boisterous day in the house, and it's good to be amongst the literature-loving people of New Zealand and Auckland, and to join in this celebration tonight after 57 years of this great award. I was looking back through some of the history and fascinated to find the first fiction book to win an award was Smith's Dreams in 1972 by C.K. Stead, who's still here. So it's a remarkable achievement, and so that's an interesting one. The finalists are always, as always, very impressive, ranging from new voices to some of our most established and renowned writers, and there's a common theme of a deep connection to this country and the courage, whatever the genre, to explore our past and present and some of our most profound issues that we face. And I also want to acknowledge, of course, Ockham Residential's role as a principal sponsor for 10 years, and the many benefactors. The arts have always relied on the generosity of people right across the spectrum, from people who are able to make a large contribution to those who make a very small contribution, and those who obviously contribute by buying books and poetry and all the things that are delivered. So I want to acknowledge the work of all of those who are part of this process to bring this wonderful evening together, and the government in its small way through Creative New Zealand, and makes its contribution, which continues to be important. Look, I won't trespass too much on your time, but last year I had just finished The Lioness before this, and that went on to win the fiction prize. And I've read a selection of finalists this year, but I won't say which ones they are. I don't want to queer the pitch in any way. But we came with the Prime Minister last year. I do remember some of the winners took the opportunity to offer constructive and at times witty observations on the government's policy and general attitude, and Aparana Taylor wrote that, quote, "The voices of poets are written on the wind." But I have noticed that the wind always comes from the same direction. But anyway, that's, so we'll see how that plays out again tonight, making the obvious observation that all New Zealanders, no matter what their background and what their political persuasion, enjoy the arts. They benefit from having their thinking and their prejudices challenged regularly, just as everybody benefits from the joy and comfort and distraction and amusement and many other gifts that great writing can bring. I could go on about the government's creative strategy on Amplify, but I encourage you to have a look at the website and look at that and contribute, because obviously we're very focused about trying to expand the number of New Zealanders who can engage regularly with the arts, but also recognise the very important economic contribution that the arts and literature are a very important part of that to how we make a living in this world and how we express ourselves globally as well. So have a look at that when you get a chance. But my primary purpose to be here is to acknowledge the finalists this evening who have put their heart and soul into the many works that we're looking at tonight, and to congratulate in advance those who win this evening. Thank you very much, and a great pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Minister. I'd now like to invite Mark Todd, co-founder of Ockham Residential, to the stage to share a few words about Ockham's association with the awards. Mark.
Thank you, Nicola. Thank you, Minister Goldsmith, for such an engaging speech too. It's big ups to anyone that's brave enough to be in the political realm, and genuine about that, and welcome Desley as well. We appreciate your continued support. It's 10 years since Ockham got involved with the New Zealand Book Awards. So a big thanks to Peter Malcaron, an old friend of mine from university who alerted us to the opportunity. Thank you very much, because without your notification this would never have happened. And the word that I want to focus on is I've really enjoyed the last 10 years being involved. I know our whole company is, a lot of our staff are avid readers. Glenn, one of our gatemen from West Auckland, worked for us for 6 or 7 years. He reads a couple of books every week. He always leaves here with a book full of, a bag full of books. So it is important for our, to keep producing stories that, help us reflect upon what it is, what reality is. I'm lucky enough to be married to a lovely woman, Stephanie, who's here. She encouraged me to read. I've just finished East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I'm sorry it's not a local book, but fuck, it's good. It's 70 years old. And it's a story of how your circumstances and your parents and where you grew up and how things echo down generations. And that's really important. We're a super young country still. Things are still echoing strongly down the generations. And, writing is really analysis, and it helps us to understand each other. It helps us to reflect upon our own lives, our own ethics. Good writing helps in all those ways to potentially bind people together. And I'm super proud to be involved, and I've enjoyed every minute of the last 10 years, and everyone else at Ockham has as well. So thank you very much, and let's get on with the evenings. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mark. Now everyone can see why we love you. Shortly, Miriama Kamo is going to lead us through the evening. But before she comes to the podium, as it's our 10th birthday, every birthday party deserves a birthday song. And so Vox Nova has made one for us specially, which we're looking forward to hear. So take it away, guys.
Ngā mihi. Mai te rangi ki te whenua ki te rangi, te moana paunamu ki ngā kāhui mau ngā tākiri iho mai. He mihi tēnei ki te rungaraua, nōna te wairua, nāna hoki ngā mea katoa I hanga. E te whatukura a CJ nei rā te mihi ki a koe I o mihi mai a ki te whakawātea te huarahi ki a mātou. A tēnā koe ko te iwi o Ngāti Whātua o rākei tēnā koutou. E aku nui, e aku rahi, kua hui mai nei tēnei pōnā te reo karanga o te kaupapa e tau ai tātou. He kaupapa whakahirahira, he kaupapa whaimana o roto I te ao nei. Hei oranga mō ngā uri whakaheke. Huri tēnei no Ngaitahu, no Taranaki whānui, hoki ko Ngāti Mutunga, te iwi, ko Miriama Kamo, ahau. Kia ora, e te whānau e koe te tui, e kete te kākā, e kuku te kēreru. I tēnei pō me whakakotahi i o tātou reo motuhaki kia kotahi. Nei rā te mihi, tēnei te mihi nunui ki a koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā koutou, katoa. E te iwi, it is your night of nights. I am delighted to welcome you to the Ockham New Zealand Book Awards 2025. This is the 10th year of celebrating the Ockhams, as they have become fondly and widely known, but it is in fact the 57th year of our country's National Book Awards. With that in mind, please join me in acknowledging these milestones that we celebrate tonight. Whakanuia. So in my mihi, I invoked the whakatauki e koe koe te tui, e kete kete te kāka, e kuku te kereru, the tui chatters, the kāka cackles, and the kereru coos. Now, these are the calls of manu, of birds, the tui, the kāka, and the kereru. And this whakatauki calls us to acknowledge that everyone has their own voice, that they are in their diversity vital. So it was good to hear the Minister's thoughts about the importance of the arts, because while some forces move to dull the choir, we know that the calls of the many birds together is what makes the forest truly sing. And that inclusive instinct is what draws us together tonight, honouring and celebrating the many diverse voices of our writers. Tonight we bring together a selection of the finest writing on offer right now in Aotearoa. We do so at a time where here and around the world, our writers and their voices are more important than ever. As our esteemed principal sponsor, Mark from Ockham, said, books are crucial. In moments of political turmoil and social and personal anxiety, books give us a chance to reflect, to slow our heartbeat down. In a time of increasing polarisation, books remind us of the validity of other perspectives. In times where power claims certainty on how we must think and act, books teach us nuance. In times of ugliness, books can cast beauty. And our finalists do all this, whether they explore ambiguity in the concepts of truth and untruth, or help us to explore colonisation, settlement, inheritance and belonging in new ways, whether they draw us into a meditative space or explore the nuances of New Zealand gulls, or perhaps because they simply present us with images that speak to the heart and soul, books draw us deeper into our humanity. Tonight, a chorus of books have been selected as finalists, calling to us from a collective chorus, but with their own distinct and potent sound. E koe koe te tui, e kete kete te kāka, e kuku te kereru. Now, just before we move on, e te whānau, I'd just like to ask you to ensure that your phones are on silent. Now, as Janet Frame said, life is hell, but at least there are prizes. Or so one thought. Well, tonight there are prizes, and sitting in this audience are those who will fulfil their destiny to win one. It's just to us now to begin awarding them. So kara whiuwa. Let's have a round of applause for everyone in contention tonight. Our first awards of the evening are the Mātātuhi Foundation Best First Book Awards. They recognise the work of quality from an author for whom the entry is their first published book in any genre. We are extremely grateful to the Mātātuhi Foundation and outreach of the Auckland Writers Festival Trust for their commitment to these important awards. I invite Mātātuhi trustee Mark Broach to the stage to congratulate the winners. Please come forward, Mark. These awards, each named for an esteemed New Zealand writer, have played a significant role in our literary history for decades, with the oldest prize dating back more than 80 years. From Janet Frame and Morris Shadbolt to Becky Manawatu and Chris Teese, they have launched many a writer's career. Two of tonight's Ockham's contenders, Deirdre Brown and Ngarino Ellis, are among other past recipients. Each Best First Book winner tonight receives a prize of $3,000 and a 12-month membership of the New Zealand Society of Authors Te Puni Kaituhi o Aotearoa. NZSA has had a very long association with these awards, and you're going to find in the leaflet the heritage of the Hubert Church Prize for Fiction and the Jessie Mackay Prize for Poetry inserted into the finalist booklet that you were handed at the door, the result of an NZSA research project funded by a Mātātuhi Foundation grant. Okay, winning writers, when we announce your name, please come straight up to the centre of the stage with your publisher to receive your award from Mark, and you will have a group picture taken by tonight's photographer, Iñaki Liano, and then move over to the other lectern, just over here, to make a short speech. The Mātātuhi Best First Book Awards are presented in this order: general non-fiction, poetry, illustrated non-fiction, and fiction. So, the 2025 winner of the E.H. McCormick Prize for General Non-Fiction in the Best First Book Awards is Una Cruikshank for The Chthonic Cycle, published by Te Herenga Waka University Press. Judges say The Chthonic Cycle is unlike anything they have read before. In this bold and convention-breaking essay collection, Cruikshank uses pearls, jet, amber, coral, and other biogenic talismans to open new perspectives on climate change, humanity, and maybe even hope. Let's have another round of applause, please. And Una, would you like to say a few words? Just at this lectern over here.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled, I'm shocked, I can't believe I'm here, etc. I have about 1 minute to say everything I could possibly want to say, so I'll rush through it super fast, I promise. Thank you to Te Herenga Waka University Press, who took a risk on a very odd little manuscript, and I'm so grateful. To Ashley Young, the world's best editor. My family are here in the audience tonight, and I'm just profoundly grateful to you. Thank you to Sasha Francis for the cover art. Thank you to my anarchist friends who are in the audience somewhere. God, there's a million thank yous. Thank you to the IIML, who taught me how to write real good. And in my final, I would say about 10 seconds of time, I just want to say one thing that I think is very, very important, and that is free Palestine. Forever and unapologetically free Palestine. Thank you so, so much.
Congratulations to you, Una. Well, next, the 2025 Best First Book winner of the Jessie Mackay Prize for Poetry is Rex Latour Paget or Manuali, published by Sofu'i Press. The judges say Manuali'i convinces through an incantatory lyricism and chant-like rhythms that surge like ocean waves. The poems work as semi-parables about self-growth and self-realization, each a mélange of urban realism and Pacifica mysticism. With its flow and flux, its tonal patterns and subtle imagery, the collection delivers a powerful new voice.
Thank you so much. I'm very honoured to receive this award. I think, Aotearoa literature and especially poetry is like top game, and there's a lot of great debuts happening, so to be recognised amongst, other people is incredible. Thank you to Faith Wilson of Sofu'i Press, who's an incredible publisher, and also Mama, who's like babies in the audience today, so it's amazing to share this experience like in a whānau kind of vibe. And there have been so many incredible people along the journey with me, my family, my friends in Wellington, as well as my beautiful partner and her mother who are here tonight. So yeah, thank you so much. I'm deeply humbled and very honoured. Thank you.
done to you, Manawa Li'i. Our next award, the 2025 winner of the Judith Binney Prize for Illustrated Non-Fiction is Kirsty Baker for Sidelines, Women in Art in Aotearoa, published by Auckland University Press. An academic tome on the expansiveness and diversity of women's art practice in Aotearoa, Sightlines say the judges does a stellar job providing a vista through New Zealand art history across time, space and place that will likely become a point of reference within our art analysis literature. Well done to you, Kirsty.
Tēnā koutou katoa. So many people, artists, writers, editors, designers, publishers, thanks Sam, family, have helped to shape this book, and I'm so grateful to them in every way. It's an honour to have Sightlines recognised here tonight, although outside of this room, the world feels almost unbearably dark and heavy. Hard-won rights are being stripped back, equity is being erased, people are facing genocide. Look around the globe and humanity seems to be showing us the absolute worst that we're capable of. So often, though, it's artists and writers who remind us that we can collectively affect change. As the indomitable Bell Hooks has said, the function of art is to do more than tell it like it is. It's to imagine what's possible. So to the artists and writers in this room, keep on imagining what's possible, even in the face of a world that tries to tell you otherwise. Thank you.
Well, our final Best First Book Award is the Hubert Church Prize for Fiction. And the 2025 winner is Michelle Rahurahu for Pohara, published by Te Herenga Waka University Press. The judges described Pohara as a road trip novel unlike any other. What stood out to them was the urgency of Rahurahu's tragicomic crises and the clarity of her depiction of colonialism, a presence in the book as incessant and rotten as one of the protagonist's relentless toothaches. Well done to you, Michelle.
Damn. I thought the conventional wisdom was you don't give a pohara money because you're just going to spend it on drugs. I just want to say thank you to all the people that you should thank. Thank you to the Ockhams. Thank you to Te Herenga Waka Press. Thank you so much to Jasmine Sargent, my editor. I honestly could not do it without you. You are, you're my chauffeur. You're my everything. I want to thank Fergus as well. It's a huge part of getting this book made. This book was to honour and to understand and to show that us poharas, we're not passive in our resistance. We're not passive in the destruction of our dignity and our safety. We are fighting. That fight is hard. That's a hard fight because you have so little power, and that power can be stripped from you at any time. But it takes intelligence and it takes wisdom and bravery to find levity in that destruction of your dignity and your safety. And that's what my community does. That's what my community has taught me, to find places to rest and recover so that you can fight another day. Because it's hard. I want to say thank you to my mum, Tui. Thank you to my dad, Rory. Thank you to my sisters, one of them's on the stage, Kia ora Nisha. Thank you to my family, to my ancestors. Thank you to the Rahurahu family. I'm so proud to wear your name. Thank you everybody. Kia ora.
Ngā mihi e te mare kura, Michelle. Michelle, if you don't know, comes from a whānau of deaf parents, and of course it is why we saw the sign language there. She has an incredible backstory, well worth checking out. A huge congratulations to all of our Best First Book Award winners, and thank you also to Mark Broach and to the Mātātuhi Foundation for your ongoing support. Let's have another round of applause, please. And now we move on to our 4 category awards. For each of these, we'll first welcome our finalists to read from their shortlisted books. Following that, the judge convener for the category will come to the stage to announce the winner, and I'll read the citation. Writers, if your name is announced as the winner, please return to the stage with your publisher. The General Non-Fiction Award is given each year to a book that offers rich, considered and groundbreaking insights into the history, people, culture and society of Aotearoa. This year's winner receives a prize of $12,000. So please welcome the 2025 finalists to the stage. Flora Feltham for Bad Archive, published by Te Herenga Waka University Press. Ngā Huia Te Awe Kōtuku for Hine Toa, A Story of Bravery, published by HarperCollins Publishers, Aotearoa, New Zealand. Una Cruikshank for The Chthonic Cycle, published by Te Herenga Waka University Press. And Richard Shaw for The Unsettled Small Stories of Colonisation, published by Massey University Press. So we're going to hear a reading from each of our writers, and we're going to begin with Flora Feltham. Flora.
This is from an essay called Bogans of the Sky, which is about seagulls. It's like the white noise of smells down there, Tom said. It's everything all at once, every nice smell and every bad smell you've ever smelled. He shook his head and picked at the couch. It's worst when it's just been raining and then the sun comes out and warms everything up. I sipped my tea and nodded. I knew what he was talking about. For most of my life, I've also lived within smelling distance of Wellington's southern landfill. And on certain still pink evenings, a thick, sticky aroma clings to my street and the surrounding hills. It wafts up from the tip face, that gully being steadily filled with waste. And it's not bad necessarily, just sickly sweet and dense. The smell is how you know you live near the tip face, because it's impossible to actually see, even once you're inside the landfill complex. It's nestled at the end of a deep valley, concealed around bends and spurs, away from the recycling centre and the scrubbed concrete bunker where we throw our rubbish. Only commercial users are allowed to drive their trucks directly onto it. Building firms, landscapers, private waste companies, the city council. My friend Tom fits this bill. Every week he drives out there and stares straight into the raw centre of the landfill process. He can breathe it in on those wet, warm days. A few years ago, Tom's work drop-off coincided with what he now calls Meat Day. A random afternoon when the tip face bulged with supermarket waste, plastic-wrapped mince, chicken. It was like the apocalypse, Tom whispered. The birds, they blocked out the sun. Above Tom's truck, the usually serene seagulls turned feral. They dive-bombed towards the rubbish, screeching. They tore mince from one another's bills. On the ground, hundreds of gulls strutted about, dangling bits of half-eaten raw flesh. Usually seagulls look so beautiful and clean, Tom said, but they were all covered in blood. Do you like seagulls, I asked. Tom sounded indignant. Of course, he said, they're the bogans of the sky.
E te rangatira, a ngā huia, kei a koe.
With my law school friend Diane, I started following the Vietnam War and listening to speakers in the university quad. They made such sense to me. Pamphlets littered the tables in the cafeteria and flapped from the O'Rourke notice boards. Vietnam ignited us all, and the student union worked closely with the activist groups and other unions. For a street march, the call went out for women with long dark hair to take part in a guerrilla theatre event, and I went along and joined in. There were almost 40 of us, all ages, all sizes. Each of us was wrapped in an old white sheet, splattered and smeared with tomato sauce, fresh mud, and canned pet food. It was a damp and drizzling winter's day, and the effect was wet and ghastly. Loose tresses or simple plaits, oozing with gore, fell from within the folded shrouds, and we were heaved up by at least 4 pairs of hands and silently carried as slaughtered Vietnamese villagers whose lives were wasted. The grisly parade dripped organic matter from the quad to Queen Street, stumbling to a halt at the cheap post office near the Cadora. But I staggered back to O'Rourke, filthy, jubilant, sticky, and proud to be part of that drama, my body aching with fingerprint bruises. They took 3 weeks to fade, but they were worth it. Kia ora koutou.
Kei te mihi nui una, kia ora.
Learning to think about the world not in terms of decades or centuries, but in terms of millions of years, is a vertiginous experience, like you were looking down at all those years and all of those lives spread out beneath you, as many as you can imagine and far, far more. You simultaneously feel too big and too small. We should be chastened and scared by our world, its mind-bending age, the complexity of the interlocking systems that keep everything running, the violent upheavals and mass extinctions. But it's critically important, even revolutionary, to be amazed by it. I don't think we have a chance of overcoming our exhaustion and bone-deep inertia without awe. To appreciate how little of Earth's history we've been here for, to know that most of the book of life was destroyed before we arrived, sharpens our perspective on what's at stake if we continue throwing huge handfuls of grit into the delicate machinery that keeps us alive. We are subject to the same natural laws as any other animal and evolved to survive within very narrow parameters. Our most elementary needs, to eat and drink and breathe, are all dependent on a carbon balance that is much older than we are. Even the rich and powerful can't escape Earth's non-negotiable systems, the cycles within cycles that made and will unmake us. The notion that maybe they can, and maybe they will take us with them to live on Mars, or put us to work in a business park in orbit, is a boring person's fantasy. Whatever happens next, you and I will see it out here, in the only place with trees and liquid oceans, the only place where we can breathe and stand upright. The work to save what is left, to pull out of a threatened ecological death spiral, will be done, like always, by countless little hands. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Una, and we're going to hear now from Richard.
Robert Macfarlane has wryly observed that the English were wont to grid the world and to girdle it with maps. One such, an 1871 sketch map of the province of Taranaki, is tucked away amongst old parliamentary papers dealing with the construction of roads in the North Island. It's a fascinating artefact, mostly for what it omits. For a start, the Cape Egmont Lighthouse is missing, and there's no road linking Okatsu in Opanaki. In fact, there's not really much of anything at all, apart from a great deal of empty white space, waiting to be filled in. It's a tricky thing, this map, and we have to be wary of it. For like many of the maps sketched by English surveyors in the colonised places of the world, the undermarked spaces obliterate the lands, estates, forests and fisheries that belonged to and were known intimately by those who lived there long before the British and their helpmeets arrived. In so doing, they also erase the people themselves. In time, of course, as the colonial frontiers moved inland in the names of British soldiers, surveyors and statesmen were splattered on the maps like so much imperial graffiti, even the white spaces would disappear. In 1871, however, what the map shows is not what was there, but what the colonisers imagined was not there. It is the absences that draw the eye as I come to the end of this book. The depiction of the whenua on which Māori had lived and died for generations is a void. The rendering is unknown, that which was deeply familiar. And this prompts me to reflect on the inner maps each of us carries of the landscapes of our memories. There are prominent cartographical features on the imaginary charts that we use to navigate to and through our past, the equivalents of mountains and rivers and coastlines, forests and plains. But there are also uncharted expanses, although they differ from the 1871 sketch map of Taranaki. In the private minds of our interiors, the silence often falls in places that were once regularly traversed, but which have since been abandoned because of trauma, because of shame, carelessness, neglect, because for some reason it serves our purposes to do so. And we now avoid those places, lest the fretful sleep of the monsters still slumbering there be disturbed. On our maps of the mind, those are the places we do not wish to tread. Kia ora.
Kei te mihi nui ki a koutou katoa rangatira mā. It is incredible, really, to hear just a couple of minutes of your writing, knowing that the soaring privilege of hearing it is that it reflects weeks, months, perhaps years of your blood, sweat and tears. So kei te mihi nui anō. Thank you so much for sharing your mahi with us tonight. Please. Well, let's now welcome convener of the General Non-Fiction Judges, Holly Walker, to the stage to announce the winner, and Gretchen LaRoche, newly appointed Chief Executive of Creative New Zealand, to present the award.
Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou. Well, as you've just heard, the general non-fiction category encompasses more subject matter and styles than any other. All these stories had to be was true. They could be essays, memoir, biography, history, natural history, humour, edited collections, or instruction manuals. And we had all of those and more in the daunting total of 55 entries. When the first box arrived, it was like Christmas. By the fourth, I think all three judges had an initial impulse to hide. It was a lot of reading, a big responsibility, and a challenging task to compare such diverse entries. But speaking of responsibility, what stood out in this category, and from the finalists in particular, was a willingness to take on that mantle, to confront scary, complicated, contested topics like climate change, colonisation, addiction, racism, and to tussle with those subjects personally and find the right container for them so that readers like us could come to them fresh and be moved and be changed. It was a joy to read these books. My sincere thanks to the organisers and to my fellow judges, Ross Kalman and Gilbert Wong. We were of one mind. While the overall task was daunting, choosing the winner in the end was easy. And I'm delighted to announce that the winner of the General Non-Fiction Award is Ngā Hui Te Awe Kōtuku for Tine Toa, Victoria.
Hine Toa is a rich, stunningly evocative memoir that defies easy categorisation. As well as painting a vivid picture of Ngā Huia Te Awe Kōtuku's early life, from her childhood on the pā at Ohinemutu to her many creative and academic achievements, it's also a fiery social and political history that chronicles the transformative second half of the 20th century in Aotearoa from a vital queer, Māori, feminist perspective. From its extraordinary opening sentence, it weaves Māori and English storytelling traditions. Once upon a time, there was a pet tuatara named Kiri. Her reptile skin was marked with stars. Hine Toa is both a personal testimony and a taonga, and it was a clear winner for the judges. Whaia.
Tēnā koe nā rea. Tangi tonu te ngākau mō rātou kua wehe. Fred Graham, Moruhu MacDonald, Robin Kahukua, moe mai rā koutou. I'm feeling rather shattered here tonight, so I begin by thanking the judges, by thanking a community of writers and visionaries and art makers who have made this possible, by thanking my partner of many years, who just did the haka, by thanking Ngāti Whakaue, mai iwi, by thanking ngā tūwhana I te wāhi ngaro, because hine toa, so much of it is about them. But also by thanking all of you who are the readers, all of you who are our critics and our lovers and our friends and our sometimes rivals. I thank you all. He onoi rā, kei te mihi anō ki a koutou, the Ockham sponsors, ki ngā manu ti ori I mua I ahau, the musicians, but most of all, to you all, for making this possible for all of us tonight, and for ensuring that writers and creatives, whatever government policy may do to us, and as our pōhara winner reminded us, we will never go away. Tēnā rā koutou.
O kei te mihi nui e te rangatira a whaia ngā huia, e te toa, e te wahine toa, the winner of the 2025 General Non-Fiction Award, whaia ngā huia, Te Awe Kōtuku. I will have the pleasure and privilege of speaking to her on Saturday, so please do join us for that. Whaia, you have blazed a path for all women, but also for all Māori. Ngā mihi nui, kia koe. Another round of applause, please. And a big thanks to Holly Walker and Gretchen LaRoche. Okay, we come now to the celebration of the nation's poets. The Poetry Award has honoured many of our finest writers over the last half century, and this year's shortlist demonstrates once again the quality and range of our poets and the vitality of this sector of our literature. Tonight's winner of the Mary and Peter Biggs Award for Poetry receives a prize of $12,000. So please welcome to the stage our 2025 poetry finalists. They are Robert Sullivan for Hopurangi Song Hatcher Poems from Maramataka, published by Auckland University Press. C.K. Stead for In the Half-Light of the Dying Day, published by Auckland University Press. Emma Neal for Liar, Liar, Lick, Spit, published by Otago University Press. And Richard von Sturmer for Slender Volumes, published by Spoor Books. And Robert Sullivan is going to begin the poetry readings tonight. Thanks, Robert.
Kia ora tātou. I was going to do something brave. I think I'll do it. I've been learning to play kowaua a little bit.
Oh, don't we?
I'm going to hold it like a cigar, partly because my dad, who I wrote this poem I'm going to read, likes smoking cigars. Mutu whenua, te awa e rere nei. Medium energy for Dad. This evening we practiced our waiata āringa with their composer, Waiariki, at Puketeraki Marae. It was healing at Karitane to hear the beautiful words and learn the moves that speak of our places of home. Ko hika roroa pahatea, ka iwi a weka, ko Puketeraki tū mai rā. It's okay to make mistakes and smile about them with others who are your relations, and just to carry on carrying the airs and graces of our whānau nui. Kai tahu, ka te māmoe, waitaha, rapu wai, ka te huirapa. I've eaten shellfish and mutton birds in the weekend at Hone Tūwharis, and my fill of happiness at Puketeraki. This kai is kōrero from our whenua too. And this poem is for my mum, Mutu whenua, Mauri ora kāretu, medium energy. I need to feel the breeze of Tāwhiri Mātea at Puke Tohunoa, to stand again behind granddads, look across the valley at our Ngāti Manu Marae, and breathe and breathe and breathe. Ngā mihi nui ki te hau kāinga who keep our whenua, our awa, te ao tūroa, as places to stand for ourselves and all who encounter us as ourselves. I'm looking forward to coming home in a couple of weeks. Te he mauri ora.
Tēnā koe, Robert. It's my delight now to ask C.K. Stead to read to us. Ngā mihi.
Three short poems from my collection. The first is The Silence. In the undertaker's parlour today, Katalis, you wore your new hearing aids to listen beside finely refurbished Kezia to the silence. She lay there in her plain wood coffin, no more serious than you, but focused, wearing that dark grey shirt we'd chosen, red-brown silk scarf, black trousers and black signed shoes, so small they touched the heart. Not a pin was dropped, not a tear fell. You and she, Katalis, were elsewhere, otherwhere, nowhere. Katalis demonstrates a vulgar taste. Tonight, Kezia, Katalis watched on Sky that childhood favourite Singin' in the Rain with Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds, and went to bed so elated he couldn't put on the Beethoven quartet he had ready. Such grandeur would have seemed a travesty, would have wrecked those oh-so-singable tunes, the marvellous sense of movement, and the timing that had set his inner man dancing. So he went to sleep remembering, hoping to dream of his loving Nana, who night after night, when Hollywood called her, Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers especially, would walk into town to watch the same movie and come home singing. It's in the genes, Kezia, unavoidable, irresistible, basic. First light. Kezia's funeral, Katalis, was yours too, no need for another. Fine weather forecast and an early tide, you're up at first light to swim at Kohi, remembering days when Kezia swam with you there to the yellow buoy in a sea that looked like glass and felt like silk, and the vast, beautiful harbour under the enigma of Rangitoto felt like forever.
Ngā mihi e te rangatira. I'd like to ask now Emma Neal to come forward.
Kia ora Miriama, tēnā koutou katoa. I'm going to read you a poem that I wish was only an historical anecdote. Unfortunately, various elements at large, globally and locally, make it seem even less historical than it was when I wrote it. It's called Scapegoat. Once, a stranger on a long coach ride showed me the birthmark beneath her sleeve. It looked a little like a red-inked crow with stooped head and slim folded tail. She told me that far back along the cobweb lines of family history was another woman whose honest body shared the mark, and who, like a weather vane, was made to spin in the bitter gale of men's fears. Turn around, show your skin, lay your breast bare. When what they saw made them weak at the knees, as if thighs, waist, nipples were not soft, but struck like rock against the flint of their thoughts, they used words like disguises to distract and dissemble. That mole, that smatter of freckles, were the bite, the thumbprint of the devil. Her port wine birthmark, the warm place they might themselves have stained with a bruising kiss, blunt and crimson as crushed geranium, or blackberries pulped on the tongue. So, which? They lied. Which?
Atahua hoki rā. Emma, thank you so much. Richard von Sturmer, if we can have a reading from your works. Ngā mihi. And just as Richard goes to read, I'll remind you, Robert Sullivan, Hopurangi, C.K. Stead, and the Half-Light of the Dying Day, Emma Neal for Liar Liar Lick Spit, and of course now we have the privilege of hearing from Richard von Sturmer for Slender Volumes. Richard.
Kia ora tātou. I'm going to read 3 very brief poem stories from Slender Volumes. The first one relates to the cover of the book. 33 years ago, I gave up performing to study Zen. It was the end of a cycle marked by my mother's death in 1986. Since then, the road has had many potholes, filled with mud and filled with moonlight. In the garage, we still have some of our masks and costumes. Before I get too old, I should put on my zebra head and my zebra suit one last time, and, holding an ironwood stick in each hand to keep the beat, gallop up the road and into the city. Next one. It's not so much the gift, but the act of giving. A bird gives itself to the air, and a fish to the ocean. A branch gives itself to scraping the side of a house in a high wind. The child gives itself to running around the back lawn with a hose, and the grass gets wet. A pen gives itself to a piece of paper, and the paper receives the pen. Words are written. Eyes give themselves to reading, and the writer stops to wonder, where do those words come from? Last one, which is the last one in the book. There is a photo booth by the ferry building, the last of its kind. Stepping inside, I sit down, draw the small curtain, and slip coins into the slot. A green light blinks above the screen. Flash. Waves break on a pebbled beach. Flash. Dust rises from a dirt road. Flash. A dim lamp on a bedside table. Flash. Four buttons in a bottom drawer. Outside, seagulls are perched on a handrail. I wait for the photo strip to appear. A faint whirring can be heard.
Oh, what an amazing, it was just a privilege to hear your work. Thank you so much. I don't know how poets do it, how you wind and tease and pull words through the eye of a needle, and yet they come muscular and full of meaning and so beautiful. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Thank you so much for sharing. So let's welcome now to the stage convener of judges for poetry, David Eggleton, to announce the winner. He is accompanied by New Zealand Book Awards trustee Richard Mātātuhi, who is standing in for award sponsors Mary and Peter Biggs, who you, as you heard from Nicola earlier, are stuck in Wellington Airport. Richard will present the award this evening. Kei a koe, David.
Tēnā koutou katoa. A fine poetry book should be a carefully crafted artefact that ideally shows the poet in search of the perfect poem, the perfect line, the perfect image, a way of saying that best represents their voice, their vision, their taste, their heart, their mind. There were 37 entries from a wide variety of publishers entered in the 2025 Mary and Peter Biggs Award for Poetry. And I would like to acknowledge my fellow judges, Elizabeth Smither and Jordan Tricklebank, for joining me in the enjoyable, if also challenging and intriguing task of reading, discussing and deliberating over a remarkable diversity of poetic voices. Poets are heretics. They do not tell institutional truths, but their truth. And as Emily Dickinson wrote, they tell it slant. They affirm faith and trust. So we fossick like connoisseurs spoilt for choice amongst many treasurable collections, to select first a long list and then a short. Congratulations to the 10 authors who made it onto the long list, and to the accomplished 4 placed on the short list. I am pleased to announce that the winner of the 2025 Mary and Peter Biggs Award for Poetry is Emma Neal from Liar Liar Lipstick.
Laia Lickspit displays an exceptional ability to turn confessional anecdotes into quick silvery flashes of insight. It's a book about fibs and fables and telling true stories which are perceived by others as tall stories, and the knock-on or flow-on effects of distrust, the scales dropping from one's eyes. It's about power and a sense of powerlessness. It's about belief and the loss of belief. It's about trust and disillusion. It's about disenchantment with fairy tales. It's about compassion. Emma Neal is a writer fantastically sensitive to figurative language and its possibilities. There's also scepticism, a sense of malaise and unease, but bolstered by a quick wit, liveliness and humour, where thought moves through the lines, arriving simultaneously with the word. Beautiful. And we'll ask you to say a few words for us too, Emma. Oh, photo first. Ka whai. Kei a koe.
Well, I don't usually inflict first drafts on people. I haven't written a thank you because I didn't expect to be up here, so apologies for a shitty first draft. I would like to thank my fellow shortlistees for their amazing poetry, their wisdom, their wit, their meditative qualities. I wish people would read all the shortlisted poems. Huge thanks to the Ockham Foundation, the New Zealand Book Awards Trust, Peter and Mary Biggs for valuing literature as a core social value importance, especially having a literature of our own. Thank you so much. Thank you to my publisher, Sue Wooten, who supported the project right from grant stage. Thank you to Creative New Zealand for the grant, quite a few years ago now. Thank you to my editor, Anna Hodge, who drove me quite hard, but it was worth it. And my beautiful family, some of whom are here tonight, my uncle Rob, my super sister Sarah, my children Abe and Zach, and my friends, my Blacks Road Poetry Workshop group. I've probably gone over a minute, but I also really want to thank my gorgeous husband, Danny Bailey, who has backed me in my writing for so many years, and I feel I share this award with him for his persistence. So thank you everybody.
Thank you so much, Emma. Laia Lickspit is the collection and winner of the Mary and Peter Biggs Award for Poetry. Well done. Well, we move now to the BookHub Award for Illustrated Non-Fiction. This is the category in which impressive writing and research are paired with excellent photography, illustrations and design. This year's winner receives a prize of $12,000. So please welcome the 2025 Illustrated Non-Fiction finalists to the stage. And they are Jill Trevelyan, Jennifer Taylor and Greg Donson for Edith Collier, Early New Zealand Modernist, published by Massey University Press. Athol McCready for Leslie Adkin, Farmer Photographer, published by Te Papa Press. Matthew Baker, Katie Cooper, Michael Fitzgerald and Rebecca Rice for Te Ata o Te Tū, The Shadow of Tū Matauenga, the New Zealand Wars collection of Te Papa, published by Te Papa Press. And Deirdre Brown and Ngāti Nō Alice for Toi Te Mana, an Indigenous history of Māori art, published by Auckland University Press. Okay, we're going to hear a reading from each of the shortlisted books, accompanied by images of pages from the book. So please welcome our first reader, Jill Trevelyan.
Kia ora koutou. St Ives, summer 1920. The New Zealand artist Frances Hodgkins is busy with a painting school and has a crowd of pupils, distracting her from her own work. A seasoned and long-suffering teacher, she has little patience with the duffers in her flock, the pampered, well-fed Englishwoman whose physical welfare is her only thought. This year, however, she has a new student who stands out in her talent and commitment. Hodgkins writes to her mother, "I have one very bright New Zealander, Collier by name, who is coming on wonderfully. I'll make something of her, I feel sure." Edith Collier was then 35, a mature single woman who'd spent the last 8 years studying art in England and Ireland. Under the guidance of dynamic teachers, including the Australian Margaret McPherson, she had abandoned the academic realism she had learned in Whanganui and developed a bolder experimental style. At St Ives, galvanised by Frances Hodgkins, Edith was painting her best work to date. By October 1920, she had hatched a plan. She would travel to the south of France with her teacher and continue to pursue her art there. But at that point, Edith's parents intervened. They had supported her for years, funding her art education in the expectation that she would eventually return to Whanganui and establish herself as an art teacher. They now made it clear it was time for her to come home. She returned to London and began preparing for her departure. When Edith finally sailed in December 1921, her cargo included more than 350 artworks, an impressive collection influenced by British and European modernism, including some of the finest portraits painted by a New Zealander in the 20th century. 2 months later, she arrived in Whanganui, returning to the childhood home where her story began. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, for that reading from Edith Collier. We're going to hear now from the book Leslie Adkin, farmer, photographer. Kia ora.
Tēnā koutou katoa. The first photograph you'll see is of Leslie Adkin himself, January 1913, and the next one is of Maud Hurd, whom he met in 1909. So my extract relates to the time of these two first photographs. Throughout the rest of 1911 and all of 1912, Ad confided to his diary feelings towards Maud that he could not express directly. Of a musical and literary evening in the Hurds' drawing room, he wrote, "Sweet Maud sat beside me on couch. I love her with all my whole heart and feel sure that she now loves me. Oh, when can I tell her all?" What held him back was the feeling that he had, quote, "no prospects in life as yet. That is nothing definite, hang it." While he might one day inherit part of the family farm, that had not yet been discussed. For the moment, he was simply a farm labourer with no means of supporting Maud in the manner she might expect. But in March 1913, a breakthrough occurred in their relationship that saw their future open up. On a late night drive home from a concert in Ōtaki with the couple in the back seat of the trap, Adkin felt he, quote, "could no longer hold out any longer," and Maud and I exchanged our first kisses. It's an amazing, wonderful thing that she should love me. God help me that I never hurt her, or be cruel to her as long as I live, and that I may prosper for her sweet sake. He never actually really prospered financially, but the two were lifelong devoted partners.
Thank you, Ethel. That was beautiful. We're going to hear a reading from Te Ata o Te Tū, The Shadow of Tūmatauinga, from Matthew, Katie, Michael and Rebecca.
Kia ora koutou. The research for this book involved a deep immersion in the collections to identify taonga relating to the New Zealand Wars. As writers, we were confronted time and again by the Western imperial perspectives privileged by the museum. Taonga have been collected through the lens of the coloniser, and often the recorded provenance tells us more about the Pākehā collector than it does about the people by whom the objects were once held, or the iwi to whom they whakapapa. Take, for example, a heitiki of exquisite quality, made of pounamu from a westland source, with serrated pāua shell inlaid eyes. We know that this taonga was taken by a soldier of the 99th Regiment from the Pā of Honeheke at Ohaiawai in 1845, acquired from Major General Robley in 1910, as William Oldman recorded in his catalogue entry. But none of this information takes us any closer to the Māori owner around whose neck this heitiki was once worn, or perhaps from whose body it was taken following battle. Instead, we trace a provenance through 3 British men. Taongas such as this heitiki remind us that much of the material we are dealing with here is essentially war booty. Trophies and mementos collected off the battlefield before embarking on global journeys that have disconnected taonga from their kōrero, from their whakapapa. While many have circled back to Aotearoa, they have not quite made it home or been reconnected with whānau or whenua. We have attempted to push against these absences by engaging in a process of consultation and collaboration. We have been challenged to think beyond the context of conflict within which some of these taonga and people have been situated, and reminded that these people are tūpuna, not just actors in a historical drama. Through this work, we are re-establishing connections and relationships between taonga, peoples and places, past, present and future. This book signals many beginnings. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora matua. We're going to have a reading now from the book written by Deirdre Brown and Ngarino Ellis, and that is Tui Te Mana.
Kia ora koutou. These kupu that I will be reading are from page 1 of a 12-year journey for us, but a much longer journey for our ancestors. The rich and varied practices of our Māori ancestors and our contemporaries have led to an engagement with our world through carving, weaving, drawing, and oral narratives. Our arts are a source of identity, authority, accommodation, protest, recovery, heritage, and most importantly, pride. This book is an attempt to write an Indigenous story of Māori art that acknowledges it as one of the world's great art traditions. To this end, we have adopted a practice that speaks across all art traditions, that of art history. This is not without its challenges in terms of defining what Māori art is and is not, and how Māori stories should be represented in book form. We should begin by saying that our definition of Māori art is non-negotiable. It is art made by Māori, just as unequivocal as our position on history. For Māori, time is not a chronology, and therefore our history is not linear, sequential, or developmental.
Kia ora, I'm going to read from page 537. The goal of Toi Te Mana, an Indigenous history of Māori art, has been to show the various ways in which Māori art has transformed and continues to transform Māori people. These are complicated and constantly shifting. Change characterises Māori art history rather than being the exception. The 3 kete strategy presented here is one approach we have used to shape our mātauranga to be easily understood. As authors, we want readers to leave the last page thinking about what they can do to continue what we pitched with Jonathan in 2014 as a global domination of Māori art history. We still firmly believe this and only wish Jonathan was here to see this moment. His whakaaro are infused through the chapters, thought I would do this, and we know that he would be happy with what we have achieved here. Whaia te iti kahurangi, me tuoho koe, he maunga teitei. Seek the treasure that you value most dearly, and if you should bow your head, let it be to a lofty mountain. Kia ora koutou.
To all of our writers, thank you so much for sharing your mahi. Edith Collier, early New Zealand modernist, Leslie Aiken, farmer photographer, Te Ata o Te Tū, The Shadow of Tūmatauinga, and Toi Te Mana, Indigenous History of Māori Art. These are absolute artworks, and we are so privileged to hear your sharing of them this evening. Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou. Katoa. All right, please welcome convener of the Illustrated Non-Fiction Judges, Chris C.K., to the stage to announce the winner. He is joined by Penny Witsi, Chair of Booksellers Aotearoa New Zealand, who will present the award. Paki paki mai.
Reading. What a great way to spend early summer. 30 brand new and beautiful books were delivered in tranches to the 3 illustrated non-fiction judges in the weeks leading up to Christmas. My thanks to fellow judges Jessica Palalangi and Kirsty Ross for their commitment to the task, especially on top of full-time jobs, and for the stimulating and vigorous discussions. It is fair to say that our reading tastes were not uniform, hardly surprising given the diversity of our backgrounds. As is sometimes typical in this category, art books dominated the field, especially if the definition includes exhibition and institutional collection-related topics. Books relating to the natural environment, flora and fauna formed a notable theme, and social histories also featured. If our opinions were not always uniform, the books themselves were certainly not samey. Indeed, perhaps the biggest challenge in long listing was the unenviable task of comparing apples with oranges. How to compare books that were an entertaining, enjoyable read aimed at a general readership with erudite tomes of a more academic or specialist nature. In selecting the eventual winner, what ultimately determined our thinking was whether the book would have lasting impact. In this respect, the judges were unanimous. I am pleased to announce the winners of the BookHub Award for Illustrated Non-Fiction are Deirdre Brown and Gardino Ellis, with Jonathan Mana Fioki, Toi Te Mana, and Indigenous History of Māori Art.
Described as groundbreaking, a landmark publication and a bold and ambitious endeavour, Toi Te Mana is a comprehensive survey of Māori art. 12 years in the making, extensively researched and thoughtfully written, it casts a wide, inclusive net. The result is a beautifully designed visual tour de force of images, both newly created and archivally sourced, and a cultural framework that approaches toi mahi with intelligence and insight. This is a book of enduring significance with international reach. Toi Te Mana is dedicated to the late Jonathan Mana Fioki, one of the 3 authors responsible for this magnum opus. Congratulations to Professors Deirdre Brown and Ngāti Noa Ellis for carrying the baton to completion, a Herculean task akin to the mahi of Maui himself, and of course Jonathan, moi mai rai te rangatira, paki mai mō ngā.
Mō wiri. E ngā mane, ngā reo, he ngā raurangatira mā, nei rā te mihi kia koutou, te mea tuatahi, kei te mihi kia rātou, kua wehe atu ki te pō. See, you should have done this part. We want to acknowledge those who have inspired Toi Te Mana, but are no longer with us. Jonathan Manewheoki, who passed away in 2014, before the joyful writing process really began. And two extraordinary leaders of Māori art, Kōka Robin Kaukiwa, and Mātua Fred Graham, whose works are in the book, which we will now look on with new admiration and aroha. We have many people to thank for Toi Te Mana's realisation and recognition tonight. The Auckland Writers Festival, Ockham and BookHub for this prize, Sam Elworthy, Lauren Donald, Neil Partington and the team at Auckland University Press.
We would also like to thank our funders, the Royal Society Te Āpārangi Marsden Humanities Fund, Ngā Pai o Te Maramatanga and Waipapa Taumaturau, the University of Auckland, our taumata, of which Ngā Huia was a member, supporting communities and of course our readers, and our whānau, especially those who have joined us this evening. The project has been 12 years in the making and it is our third book together. This one written around our work at the university while raising families, from being young ones to adults. We hope that Toi Te Mana and this award will encourage more people to discover, discuss and write their stories about those taonga that define who we are as Māori. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora.
Nei rā te mihi ki ngā tō whakaihu waka, the winners of the BookHub Award for Illustrated Non-Fiction 2025, Deirdre Brown and Ngāti Noa Ellis. And thank you too to Chris and Penny. Whakanui ai te whānau. Well, the final award of the evening is named for the wonderfully generous benefactor who loved fiction and who wanted to create an award to specifically celebrate our novelists and short story writers. The Jann Medlicott Acorn Prize for Fiction, now standing at $65,000, is New Zealand's richest fiction writing prize. This year's shortlist features 3 extraordinary novels and 1 terrific short story collection. Remarkably, 3 of the finalists are previous winners of the Fiction Prize at the New Zealand Book Award. So, our 2025 fiction finalists are Lawrence Fernley for At the Grand Glacier Hotel, published by Penguin Random House. Kirsty Gunn for Pretty Ugly, published by Otago University Press. Tina Makarete for The Myers, published by Ultimo Press. And Damien Wilkins for Delirious, published by Te Herenga Waka University Press. Now you'll notice that Damien doesn't look like Damien, he looks more like Fergus Barrowman. Thank you very much, Fergus. Sadly, Damien has gotten caught up in the Air New Zealand issues, but we're hoping he makes it here on time. In the meanwhile, we have the wonderful Fergus with us, so thank you very much to you, Fergus. We're now going to hear a reading from each of the shortlisted books, and we're going to welcome our first writer now, Lawrence Fernley.
Kia ora. We had been walking all the while, drawing closer to the car park, and now we caught glimpses of the hotel through the trees. The contrast between the untamed forest and the clean outlines of the buildings gave the scene a fairy tale quality, and it occurred to me that the hotel must have been an incredible sight in its heyday, during the 1910s and the 1920s, with its gleaming facade, elegant entrance and deep verandas surrounded by formal gardens. I could picture the wealthier guests wandering the grounds, the women in their elegant silk dresses chatting among themselves and pausing now and again to smell the roses as they wandered by. The men in tweed, walking stiffly with their hands clasped behind their backs like aristocrats, doing the rounds at a garden party, stopping every now and then to survey the gleaming mountaintops towering above, the high clouds and the shifting weather. Some of the guests, I supposed, would hire private guides to lead them up onto the glacier. I'd seen images of women in white blouses and long woolen skirts, their faces obscured by large brimmed and veiled hats that sat on their heads like meringues, walking along steps cut into the ice with only an alpenstock for support. If they were scared of slipping, their expressions in those faded black and white photographs didn't show it. To my eyes, every one of them looked happy and relaxed, invigorated by their icy adventure, basking in their surroundings, enjoying the freedom that came with the outdoors. How funny to think that none of them were frenetically recording themselves on phones or hell-bent on sharing their experience with an audience. There was no suggestion that they were performing, and yet they might have been. Everybody does, don't they? Even me, especially me.
Thank you, Lawrence, for that reading from at the Grand Glacier Hotel. We're going to hear now from Kirsty Gunn for Pretty Ugly. Thanks, Kirsty.
I'm going to read the opening paragraphs from a short story called King Country. Their father had always let them handle the guns, so they thought nothing of allowing me to touch them. Though their father was not someone I could ever speak to or know, he was a frightening man with a little war wound, he called it, a long red scar from where a stallion had bitten him on the thigh right through to the bone, and it made him suck his breath in between his teeth and whisper Christ when he had to do something in a hurry, get up, say, to give one of his boys a whack if they'd been causing trouble, or bend over to pick up a heavy sack or bag off the ground. Christ Jesus, sometimes, he'd say then, when the wound perhaps hurt him, the S's in the words sounding through those strong white teeth of his in his dark, tanned face. I was a child, but I desired him then, before I knew what desire was. To come in was the phrase I used privately to myself, to know what it was to be entirely in love. But you can't be in love with your best friend's father. I knew that too, and the Carter boys were my best friends. Not only Taylor, who was in my class at school and the skinniest, but Kip and Tommy, who were both older. They let me be in their gang, and they were all three of them mean buggers, their father called them. Come here, you lot, he'd shout when he got back to the house after a big day out in the bush where he was working. Get inside, and he'd whistle them in like they were a pack of dogs, and it made them yell with pleasure when he did it. Oh, you pappy, they'd scream back at him, charging around the place, tackling him and running away just as fast. They were acting like they were terrified, only they were excited by his presence and by the things they'd done while he'd been away. We'll have your guts, Kip said to me once, when making me promise on some secret or other, a cat killed, or some boy at school Tommy had cut that I'd never tell. God's truth, all three of them reminded me. We'll hurt you if you squeal.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kirsty. We're going to hear from Tina Makareti now for the Mayas.
Kia ora tātou. Water will come and you think it will be soft. You think it will be smooth and find its way around your things, your houses and cars and furniture, your gardens and windows and hope. You think it might carry away some sticks and birds and rubbish from the drains, but it won't touch your crockery and photos and family heirloom kete, your beds or your cupboards of food. But water can be the foot of an elephant, the horns of a moose, a herd of buffalo running from a lion. Water can be the Kodi falling in the forest, a 2-ton truck, a whole stadium filled with 50,000 people screaming. Water can be the boulder, the cliff face, the moon, a planet hurtling through space, the terrible gravity of a black hole, the crushing centrifugal force. Water can be a galaxy of stars, the density of them, their dazzling power. Water is life, and water can be death. Wairere slips between dimensions, her heartbeat following the rhythm of the water drumming down from the sky in waves. She sits hugging her knees on the bench, then occasionally kneels up to look out. Nothing changes except the water level. Most of the time, though, Wairere leaves her physical body behind and joins the swamp, slipping all the way through its different parts: the bog, the estuary, the seepages and flushes, the lagoon. She works her way down the swales and into the runoff, through the stormwater drains and out into the neighbourhood. By the end of the day, she knows it all. Every secret underground pathway that water can infiltrate, all the mires, earthly and human, all the places and ways to get stuck, the quicksands and the brokenness, the way water seeps through. By the end of the day, she has mastered how to flow with the water, how to run where it runs, how to attend to Swamp Mother's wishes, how to gather strength enough to realise her own. She finds she knows what to do. How could she not have seen it before? She sees what Connor is, how small he is, how small they all are really, how they only mean something in relation to each other. Kia ora.
Kia tāhua hoki rai te mare kura. And our final reading is from Delirious. Of course, we're still hoping that Damien will make it, but in the meanwhile, Fergus, thank you so much. Over to you.
Kia ora tātou. I'm just looking for the doors in the back to burst open, but I think they're not. What you need to know about this scene is that Mary and Pete have gone for a swim. You know, Mary, if one of us gets ill or whatever, in sickness and health, said Mary, but if one of us goes completely la-la, like Mum, shoot me. Okay, good, sorted. Take me out the back and shoot me, Pete. Yeah, great. The back of where? Or borrow a kayak and row us out, way out by the island, then shove me off. Shove you off? Is there a struggle? Could be. You'd need to take me by surprise. But you'd want it, right? Oh, I'd be far too far gone to want it. I'd probably fight for my life. But ignore that. Jesus, it sounds dangerous for me, way out there in a kayak with a crazy woman with all her police training. It's not going to be a picnic for anyone. What if you swam back? By that stage, I wouldn't know what swimming was. I'd think swallowing the water was the best way of surviving. I'd go down fast. Problem solved. Right. I like it more than the shooting option. Yeah, because obtaining a firearm would be an issue. Then the target practice. They had started to wade in, meeting the heat once more, their bodies prickling with it. Pete said, I'll be there, Mary. I'll be here. Where? With you. I know. That's what I'm relying on. That's why I'm giving you instructions now. Whatever. Unless, she said, we ask Colin to kill us both. With his access to drugs, we could go out literally on a high. By the time they got home from their swim, they were hot again. Should they still go to the blessing? Would it be called off? Kia ora, thank you.
Thank you, Fergus/Damien. Absolutely fabulous. You're a wonderful replacement. Thank you. Another round of applause. And a big thank you and congratulations to our four writers, Lawrence, Kirsty, Tina and Damien, for these incredible works that we had the privilege of listening to this evening. We're going to welcome now to the stage the convener of the fiction judges, Dr. Tom Conroy, to announce the winner. He's joined by Campbell Higgins, Legacy Giving Manager of the Acorn Foundation, which administers the incredible legacy Jann Medlicott left to fund our premier literary prize. Paki paki mai te whānau.
Just keep an eye out for anyone that comes through the doors. Ki ngā katuhi o ngā korero rangatira, tēnā koutou. He kai ata rangatira he korero. Last spring and summer, I, along with fellow judges, Tanya Roxborough and Carol Boo, had the profoundly rewarding opportunity to read fiction across a range of ethnicities, voices, subgenres, and subjects. In a year when AI has made an unprecedented leap forward in its ability to tell our stories for us, we cherished the authentic human connections, so far as we know, that we made with the 53 entrants to the 2025 Jann Medlicott Acorn Prize for Fiction. I would like to mihi Tanya and Carol, alongside our international judge, Georgina Godwin, for their commitment to this country's literary community. We enjoyed the spirited korero about the year's best fiction, and conveniently, we often found ourselves on the same page. The long list was the hardest step in the process, as so many entries were just so very, very, very close. The short list was also challenging, but ultimately we felt that the stunning quality of their prose and the originality of their characters set the final four apart. Our deepest thanks go to these authors for allowing us the privilege to spend a few hours with your characters, swept out to sea on the currents of invented minds. I'm delighted to announce that the winner of the Jann Medlicott Acorn Prize for Fiction is Damien Wilkins for Delirious.
The judges wrote Delirious is an unforgettable work of fiction that navigates momentous themes with elegance and honesty. With a gift for crisp, emotionally rich digression, Damien Wilkins immerses readers in Mary and Pete's grapples with aging and their contemplations of lost loved ones who still thrive in vivid memories. What stood out to us was the assured but understated touch of prose as it flows elegantly across decades, threads the intricacies of relationship, and fathoms the ongoing evolution of a couple's grief. Wilkins manages to contend with colonialism, racism, and climate change while remaining intimate, funny, and above all, honest. Delirious is an absorbing, inspiring novel and a damn fine read. Whaki mai anō e te whānau. And sadly, Damien has not made it. We'll blame you in New Zealand. But we are very privileged to have his avatar, Fergus Barrowman, if you would like to say a few words on Damien's behalf, Fergus.
Kia ora anō. I'm still not Damien. We've been very close, Damien and I, since he first worked as my assistant in the 1980s, and it's been a huge thrill and privilege for me to publish his books over the years, and I can say that this is my favourite of his books. He gave me a page reference before by text, but he hasn't given me any speech notes. I know that he would want to thank the sponsors and the organisers and the judges and everybody here, especially the community of writers and readers. And he would want to thank his family. This is a book that comes from life. So his parents and his brother and his sisters. And I think I'll just tell you that the dedication of the book is for my mother and for my sister, Miriam. Thank you, everybody.
We've just had a bit of intel. You know in the movies when the wedding's happening and then somebody smashes through the doors and there they are and they're the last person you expect. We've just been told that actually Damien's only a couple of minutes. Is this him now? Is that you, Damien? Someone's coming in the doors. Are you teasing us? They're not saying anything. Is that Damien Wilkins coming in? Still coming. Okay, what we're going to do... talk about teasing us. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to ask our amazing musicians to just play for us for a little bit until Damien makes it. Thanks, Fox Nova. We got good news for you. Thank you very much to our amazing Vox Nova. Thank you to our awesome Fergus Barrowman. And thank you for making it on time, Damien Wilkins. Sorry, Damien's going to stand there awkwardly for a photo. Can we have Damien and Fergus in the middle? Just come here for a moment. We're going to have a photo with you both. Wonderful. And Damien, Fergus spoke for... No, don't you go anywhere. You've only just arrived. Fergus spoke for you beautifully, but now we get the privilege of hearing from you directly. So please, kei a koe.
So what did I miss? Was it good? I'm so sorry. This has been like a 7-hour journey or something from Wellington, but we're here. And amazing. I can't believe it. So I was listening in the car to the readings, and I want to honour my fellow writers, finalists in all the categories, and it's kind of overwhelming. I'm not quite sure which city I'm in, but I did take the time to write some words because, yeah, it was all getting crazy. So, look, thank you so much. You know, when I published my first novel, The Miserables, more than 30 years ago, I was astonished that it won the New Zealand Book Award for fiction. And on the shortlist then were Fiona Kidman and Morris G. And maybe I thought, well, that was pretty straightforward. You know, you write a book and you waltz past a couple of legends. I remember the ceremony was in the packed living room of Premier House. And in those days, you could fit all of New Zealand literature on 4 sofas and 6 armchairs. And there were always 2 policemen standing in the rain outside with a torch and a wet clipboard, and you could fit all of New Zealand literature on that clipboard. And I remember receiving my envelope from Joan Bolger, standing in for Jim, who, come to think of it, might not have been so pleased to be associated with a novel with the word miserable in its title, though she was very nice about it. Anyway, it was surreal, and this moment is surreal also. Honestly, I don't think I was expecting a similar strike rate with each successive novel I wrote. Did I even hope for better than once every 30 years? I'm not sure. But I do remember a moment of painful calculation when, after 10 years of writing novels, I received my royalties statement, and it showed for that period I'd earned no money from book sales. Zilch. Some books had even been returned. So I was negative. It was like having your soul returned. On second thoughts, we don't need this. So I'd had a decade in the business, and what business did I have to stay in the business? But in the same period, I'd also had 2 lovely and large writing grants from Creative New Zealand and a writing residency for a year. So I felt simultaneously rejected and utterly embraced. You might think, well, big deal, that might just be the writer's lot, if you're lucky. And I have been so lucky. I mean, pinch me, this life, are you kidding? You know, reading, writing. So look, thank you to everyone involved in these awards, to Jann Medlicott, of course, to the judges, to the sponsors, to readers, my wonderful fellow writers. I'm enormously grateful, of course, to this guy here, Fergus Barrowman, who's been my publisher for those 30 years. I really love the work that Ashley Young does there. Kiva's come on board. My favourite editor, Jane Parkin, was involved in this book, and they've all made this book much better. To my sister Sarah for the gorgeous cover and for being my sister. To all my siblings. To my father, and I'm sending my love to Marie, Geraldine and Greta and all the whānau here tonight, texting me crazily saying, "Where are you? Are you close?" And araha to everyone who refrained from telling me to try something else, and now it is too late. And I do count my older sister Miriam in that number, whose memory I dedicate the book to. And of course there's my mother, whose life was sustained by novels and what Robert Frost called the highest form of poetry, gossip. I stole so much to make this novel, and now I feel even more like a pickpocket. Kia ora.
Your winner of the Jann Medlicott Acorn Prize for Fiction, Damien Wilkins. God, wasn't that bloody great? That was awesome. Well done, Damien. It's so great that you made it. And we're so thrilled for you. And if you haven't got to reading the book yet, you must. It's an amazing, amazing book, clearly, because you won the giant prize of the night. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap on tonight's awards presentations. Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou to all the winning authors, and thank you to the finalists and their publishers for all they do to enrich our lives and to contribute to such a vibrant community of bookmakers and readers. E koi te tui, e kete te kākai, ku te kereru, the tui chatters, the kākai cackles, and the kereru coos, and every single voice in our literary landscape matters. Bravo to our discerning and tireless 2025 judges, and huge thanks to all of our generous sponsors. The awards would not be possible without you. Another round of applause, please. It's been such a pleasure to guide you through the Ockham New Zealand Book Awards tonight. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much to all of you for being a part of the event and for your support of the vibrant literary culture of Aotearoa. You can buy all the books you've heard and read tonight at the bookstore in the foyer. The operative word there, of course, is all the books. A number of this year's Ockham's winning shortlisted and long-listed writers and judges are appearing in the 2025 Auckland Writers' Festival right here over the next 4 days. Tickets are available from Ticketmaster, online or at the box office in this building. Don't miss it. Nei rā te mihi nui kia koutou katoa e te whānau. But before you leave, Vox Nova is going to give us that special 10th anniversary tune one more time as we pay tribute again to all 8 winning books and their authors, and of course to all the finalists. And we say thank you to our principal sponsor, Ockham Residential, for their enormous support over the past decade. 10 years, e te whānau whakanuia.